Hi Inktober Tanglers, I'm Annie, and instead of doing my lunchtime tangles for a while, I've decided to join in on the fun. I've been following so many of the posts that you have been doing for Inktober Tangles, and though I've been super busy and I can only just jump in now, I'm going to catch up and try to do a few at a time. And today I'd like to show you the first three that I've worked up, and I'm having so much fun because the challenge of Inktober Tangles is, first of all, learning new tangles, of which I have just learned two new ones that I know I will use in the future. They are so much fun. I knew Rain because that's just a classic, right? But I really enjoy the challenge of trying to put them together in a kind of designerly way. So I have got my first one ready for you, and I hope you join me in tangling Days 1, 2, and 3 of Inktober Tangles. I apologize for being late. I've just been so busy. I've had guests, I've been hiking, I've been not doing my job. So I am going to catch up. So let's get started with Days 1, 2, and 3. And I'm excited to be joining the rest of you Inktober Tanglers for this lovely challenge that has been a tradition for me too, like many of you. And one of the things I like to do with my tangles is put them in a little volume of my Bitty Book of Comfort every year. So this is a year's past, and I am working only on Bijou tiles because of that. Today I'm going to combine three of the tangles because number one, I'm getting a late start, and number two, I have to combine a couple of them because my little journal is custom made to fit only 16 tiles plus front and back, so I can put a little colophon and a table of contents in there. So today I am going to be doing Rain by Zentangle, Del Y by Stephanie Jennifer, and I See You by Dory Peters. I will be using a Jelly Roll pen, white, and also a white General's charcoal pencil, and I have three Tombow pens here because we're going to do something fun in color partially, and you'll see when we get that far. So besides that, of course, I have a soft graphite pencil and a tortillon, as well as my 01 Micron pen from Sakura. So let's get started. So we're going to start out by making the actual third day tangle called I See You, and we're just going to make a great big eye shape across this Bijou tile. And then we're going to do an aura line, which is not really part of the original step out, but it's going to help us set off the other part of our tile. Okay, so then we need the first set of shapes within here. And I know, generally speaking, that shape for Dory is like this. It's very pointy, right? Kind of like a cat's eye. But I am going to give us a little more space by making that wider so that we have room for another eyeball in there. So here you'll see what I mean. And then we're going to turn the tile and do the same thing here. And then we're going to turn the tile again, and we're going to do an actual eyeball. And before I start doing the aura line work in here, I'm going to make our next tangle, which is Del Y by Stephanie Jennifer, and it's this sweet little floral tangle that's very versatile, and I'm just going to put it here in each of the corners. I like how this mimics the eye shape. And then we can start our aura lines. Take your time. Try to make that spacing equal. When we come to this little flowerette, we're going to draw behind. And I'm going to turn my tile because I like to draw from up to down. And then on this one, we'll be oraing this line. And then this again. So let's just clean this circle up. It's not perfect. And that leaves us with our eye in the middle, right? So actually it could be even, let's leave it like that. Okay, so now we're going to do Rain by Zentangle. And all I'm going to do is kind of mimic this curve. And then I'm just going to do that random zigzag. And then of course we're going to aura this as well, including this line here. There are different variations of rain where you don't have to aura the line, but I am going to choose to do that oraing because that again is a nice design, a companion to the aura lines here. So I'm going to do an aura on both sides. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. But obviously with random zigzags. And then we're going to aura the top and the bottom of each of those zags, including the midline here. So there we have basically our 3 tangles. Now I'm going to do something else here. I'm going to do something called transcending. That is when we draw right on top of something that's already down on paper, something that's already tangled. And so I'm going to add some more little Del-Ys in here. And they will look like they're kind of blending into the background. So they won't be so prominent, but they'll still be there and very decorative. And do the same thing on this side. And now we can start beefing up our line work so that we have what we call lively line. So like wherever these begin, these consecutive parallel aura lines, I like to give that first one a little bit more weight. This is going to be our eyeball. on here, just some extra weight here and there. Not so much on those transcending tangles. This is the opportunity also to clean up irregular line work. And now is going to come the really fun part. I am going to make this an eye, and I'm going to do that by starting out with the pupil. Blacken that in. Maybe even a little bit bigger, since this one's kind of big. And then I'm going to take my Tombow, water-based Tombow N75, which is a light gray, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of shading with that Tombow to make it look sort of spherical, right? An eyeball is a ball after all. And then I'm going to go over everything with the next, with my lighter blue, which is 452. Go right over the top of that gray, and then in the rest of the tile on that circle. Sort of saving out a sliver of light down there that's kind of like a reflective light. Don't go over the black, I just want to paint around it. These are great pens with the paintbrush tip. And we can always add a little more dimension here again by making another layer of the gray here. And then we're going to take the big one, or not the big one, the darker blue, which is 493, right? And we're going to do kind of almost like an eyelid over the top. A little bit more of the light blue here just to give it a bit of a gradient. So that there's a bit more of a transition. And now comes the fun part. It's with the jelly roll. Once you get it going, I'm going to put a little white speck up here. I'm going to have to go back over that because you know how jelly rolls kind of get sucked into the color that they're going on top of. They kind of blend in actually. So I'm going to let that dry and I'll go back over that. And once that's dry, I'm going to take my General's white and I'm going to make some lines coming out of the pupil to make this look like an iris. Very faint. So I'm going to be letting that dry a little bit. It's very vibrant in person. I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to get my pen actually out, or my one graphic, my graphic one pen from Sakura, to do some filling in of these triangles from our rain pattern. I'm going to fill these in black, just the triangular parts. Kind of like how these little zigzags could be interpreted as eyelashes. Let's see if I can get that a little bit wider. Getting there. And now for the shading. Oh, and I'm going to take my light blue, which is this 452, and I'm going to color in this negative space between the rain zigzags. And then you can go back in there and add a little bit of almost like shading. The darker blue. And I would go back over it with the lighter blue just to give that more of a transition. Layering is everything, whether it be markers, watercolors, acrylics, pencils, colors, colored pencils. The more you layer, even your graphite. This one I'm just saturating it a little bit more. So I want to get rid of that hard line. Really kind of helps our eyeball pop, right? And then we're going to get our graphite pencil out. I have a 3B here. A 2B would be great too. Let me see if I have one. Yes. And we're going to just, wherever there's this crossover of the line, where there's a directional change in the lines, better said, we're going to add some graphite. Don't worry about going right on top of that eyeball because it's okay. And we're going to blend that out. Lena's clicking around on my hardwood floors here. And then I'm going to actually put some here where we have that aura line. So by adding this shading on either side of the eyelid aura line, it really makes it look like this eye is kind of popping up and being three-dimensional. And then we do need some shading down here on our sweet little, what's it called? Del Y. That's kind of a hard name for me to remember. I don't know why. Del Y. That's why. Del Y. We want this one in the front to be really prominent. The other ones should recede into the background. So that's fine if they're in part of that shading, right? And then we'll put some more in here. Notice how I keep going back over top of my graphite until I get my desired darkness. And one more thing you can do, which I did on my sample, I'll show you here. I actually did this in my sketchbook, so I put a little frame around it. I also took my jelly roll and put little dots. So I'm going to go ahead. I kind of like that look. You can see how I really did a lot of hatch work here as shading, and then I added those in here. But I decided I liked to concentrate on the eye instead. So let's do some of those little dots. It's always kind of fun. When you have a dark background like this dark blue, they really show up. Just gives it one more layer of texture. Of course, it's kind of sinking into that blue, so you're going to have to go back over it probably more than once. Whenever I do this dot work, I always think of Aboriginal art. And then you can get your pens out and clean up little spaces. Make sure you've got all of your lines nice and saturated. I'm looking and I see that I could sculpt this up a little more by putting some shading around the one that should be on the top. Don't worry that we're going right over the top of those others. They'll be kind of mysteriously sitting in the back there. That's how those transcending tangles should be, right? They shouldn't be the focal point. Just going to lift a little bit here and reblend. So as you can see, we really do need to kind of go back over these little white dots, which I will do, and I'll show you the finished piece when we're finished. We really want that speck, that highlight, to be very shiny. You could put more than one highlight, but I like it to be simple. So there is days 1, 2, and 3 of our Inktober Tangles. Can't wait to see what I come up with next time. This is the fun challenge of this, is trying to figure out how to put a couple of them together. These are mainly new to me, most of them, so enjoy exploring with all of them. That's it for today's Tangle. Thanks for joining me. If you like these lunchtime tutorials, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also invite you to check out my website for classes that I have scheduled, or to purchase my Tangle tags for your favorite step outs. That's bowtangle.net. I'm leaving you with some other links too. Zentangle.com, where you can learn more about the Zentangle method from its founders, Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas. You can also visit their store there for a multitude of Zentangle paper tiles, tools, books, and kits. Tanglepatterns.com is that site I talk about, where you can explore hundreds of tangle patterns, read about them, and get the step out, which is basically the deconstruction of the pattern. And finally, if you'd like to share your beautiful results with me and my student community, please join Annie's Bowtangle Alumni Facebook page. We're a private group where we inspire each other with our work and offer tips and useful information about art and Zentangle.